Hello and welcome to this exploring session, and today we are looking at the first act of Thomas of Woodstock by Anonymous, written somewhere orbiting 1592. That seems to be the date that pops up, but somewhere in that general area. But of course, other opinions may vary, and we may get into that later down the line. We, within the world of Beyond Shakespeare, like to think of this as Richard II Part 2, because the story of Richard II's life begins in early modern drama in a play we've already done on the podcast, The Life and Death of Jack Straw, where the 14-year-old Prince Richard, or King Richard, battles away at the peasants' revolt, and we have dealt with those revolting peasants as a full cast audio and also in great detail going into the background of the text. In fact, there's still more material. There's 2 whole interviews yet to go out on the podcast feed itself. So if you want to know the story so far, that's somewhere to go. In a sense, this is a preview of Thomas of Woodstock, in the sort of sense of Anton preview, or this contains history, all of the right notes, but not necessarily in the right order. And the historians may have fun unpicking where some of these events and peoples and come together, whether they're accurate or not. Many of them are accurate, but not necessarily in the right place. Ages, in terms of real people and personages, are deeply suspect. There's a certain shades of Braveheart at times, and there's all these little things to play around with. Otherwise, this is a fun, an interesting, and engaging history play, which we are going to explore now with this fabulous team of readers from all over. And reading today, Lancaster and Tresilian is...
Hello, I'm Sarah. I'm an actor, writer and director, and I run a small audiobook company called Sounds Curious.
And reading the part of the Lord Mayor Exton and Greene in Act 1, Scene 3 only is...
Hi, I'm Liz Hill and I'm in North Devon.
And reading the part of York and briefly the Duchess of Gloucester is...
Hello, I'm Helen Good and I'm a historian.
And reading the part of Arundel and Richard II is...
Hello, I'm Pamela Flanagan. I'm an actor in London.
And continuing the journey through various counties, we're reading Surrey, Anne, and also Greene in Act 1, Scene 2 only is...
Hi, I'm Tamara. I'm an actor too. I'm usually in London, but I'm currently in Germany.
And reading Cheney and Bagot is...
Hi, I'm Alan Scott. I'm based in Suffolk and I'm not a professional actor.
And reading the part of Thomas of Woodstock and Nimble is...
My name is Alexandra and in less confined times I act professionally.
And that is the team. I am your host, Robert Crighton. I'll be reading stage directions and occasionally jumping in to give a sense of proportion to things. Or not, I don't know. I haven't done this for a few days and suddenly I'm completely out of practice as to the form of things. I think broadly speaking what we do now is we read through the play, and that's, I think, what we're going to try and do now. So let's begin with Act 1, Scene 1, and you may get a sense of confusion now, as indeed there's much confusion to be going on stage. Enter hastily at several doors Duke of Lancaster, the Duke of York, the Earls of Arundel and Surrey, with napkins on their arms and knives in their hands, and Sir Thomas Cheney, with others bearing torches and some cloaks with rapiers, cloaks and rapiers, and everyone starts crying out in various voices.
Lights!
Lights!
Torches!
Knaves!
Shut
to the gates! Let no man out until the house be searched!
Call for our coaches! Let away, good brother! Now, by the blessed saints, I fear we are poisoned all.
Poisoned, my lord?
Aye, aye, good Arundel. It is high time be gone. May God heaven be blessed for this prevention.
God, for thy mercy! Would our cousin king so cozen us to poison us in our meat?
Has no man here some helping antidote? For fear already we have taken some dram. What thinkst thou, Cheney? Thou first brought'st the tidings. Are we not poisoned, thinkst thou?
Fear not, my lords, that mischievous potion was as yet unserved. It was a liquid bane dissolved in wine, which after supper should have caroused to young King Richard's health.
Good faith. Are his uncle's deaths become health to King Richard? How came it out? Sir Thomas Cheney, pray resolve us this doubt.
A Carmelite friar, my lord, revealed the plot, and should have acted it, but touched in conscience, he came to your good brother, the Lord Protector, and so disclosed it, who straight sent me to you.
The Lord protect him for it. I and our cousin King. High heaven be judge, we wish all good to him.
A heavy charge, good Woodstock. Hast thou had to be protector to so wild a prince? So far degenerate from his noble father, whom the trembling French the Black Prince called, not of a swart and melancholy brow, for sweet and lovely was his countenance, but that he made so many funeral days in mournful France, the warlike battles won at Cressy Field, Poitiers, Artois, and Maine, made all France groan under his conquering arm. But heaven forestalled his diadem on earth to place him with a royal crown in heaven. Rise may his dust to glory, ere he'd have done a deed so base unto his enemy, much less unto the brothers of his father. He'd first have lost his royal blood in drops, dissolved the strings of his humanity, and lost that livelihood that was preserved to make his unlike son a wanton king.
Forbear, good John of Gaunt. Believe me, brother, we may do wrong unto our cousin King. I fear his flattering minions more than him.
By the blessed Virgin, noble Edmund York, I'm past all patience. Poison his subjects, his royal uncles? Why, the proud Castilians, where John of Gaunt writes king and sovereign, would not throw off their vile and servile yoke by treachery so base. Patience, gracious heaven.
A good invoke right princely Lancaster. Calm thy high spleen. Sir Thomas Cheney here can tell the circumstance. Pray give him leave.
Well, let him speak.
'Tis certainly made known, my reverend lords, to your loved brother and the good Protector, that not King Richard, but his flatterers, Sir Henry Greene, joined with Sir Edward Bagot, and that sly Machiavel Tresilian, whom now the King elects Lord Chief Justice, had all great hands in this conspiracy.
By blessed Mary, I will confound them all.
Your spleen confounds yourself.
By kingly Edward's soul, my royal father, I'll be revenged at full on all their lives.
Nay, if your rage break to such high extremes, you will prevent yourself and lose revenge.
Why, Edmund, canst thou give a reason yet, though we be so near in blood, his hapless uncles, his grandsire Edward's sons, his father's brothers, should thus be made away? Why might it be that Arundel and Surrey here should die?
Some friend of theirs wanted my earldom sore.
Perhaps my office of the Admiralty. If a better and more fortunate hand could govern it, I would 'twere none of mine. Yet thus much can I say, and make my praise no more than merit. A wealthier prize did never yet take harbour in our roads than I to England brought. You all can tell, full 80 sail of tall and lusty ships, and 6 great carracks fraught with oil and wines, I brought King Richard in abundance home. So much that plenty hath so staled our palates, as that a ton of high-prized wines of France is hardly worth a mark of English money. If service such as this, done to my country, merit my heart to bleed, let it bleed freely.
We'll bleed together, warlike Arundel, cousin of Surrey, princely Edmund York. Let us think on some revenge. If we must die, 10,000 souls shall keep us company.
Patience, good Lancaster. Tell me, kind Cheney, how does thy master, our good brother Woodstock, plain Thomas, for by the rood so all men call him, for his plain dealing and his simple clothing? Let others jet in silk and gold, says he, a coat of English frieze blessed pleaseth me. How thinks his unsophisticated plainness of these bitter compounds? Fears he no drug put in his broth? Shall his health be secure?
Faith, my lord, his mind suits his habit, homely and plain, both free from pride and envy, and therein will admit distrust to none.
And there we'll just briefly pause the scene. I'm just getting some audio artifact coming over the recording as we're going. I don't know if anyone's not got headphones on. Maybe turn your volume down if you haven't got headphones on, because I'm definitely getting some howl around from somebody's feed. So just have a little look at that. Okay, let's, before the entrance of Thomas of Woodstock himself, the man is coming on stage any second now. Any thoughts about what's just happened?
It's a very exciting beginning, isn't it?
Yeah.
Great.
There's no hanging around, is there?
No.
And we all very, very carefully tell the audience who each of us is.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I rather like the callback to Hieronymo's pageant. In Lancaster's speech, The Proud Castilians, where John of Gaunt writes king and sovereign. If you remember Hieronymo's first pageant in the Spanish tragedy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the third one.
Wow, you've got a great memory, Helen. Gosh.
Well, it struck me at the time.
Yes, you're right about that. You know, we've got action, but we also have quite clearly laid out exposition as well, and we're nicely setting up Thomas's entrance here. They're talking about the title. I mean, we don't know for certain that what the play is supposed to be called. To be fair, we call it Thomas of Woodstock. We don't actually know. So when we say the title character is coming on, it could be called something completely different. Just sort of one of the names it's known as. But yes, they prefigure his entrance really nicely and really give us a pen portrait of who's about to come on stage.
I find it quite funny, really, in the midst of this poison plot, that they make so much of his clothing.
Everybody's going to make much of his clothing.
Yeah. I think there's an element here that could potentially be rendered quite silly on stage if not directed carefully, because you've got these people going, hello brother of name and title, who obviously you know who you are, but I'm going to say it anyway. Why don't we, ask our other brother who dresses like this and everyone says this thing about him, which we should both know, what he thinks. It could come across as ridiculous.
I think that's true. As we're looking for where the bodies may be buried, there is a case of, I don't know why I'm telling you this-ness to this scene, and that's a problem of any exposition at the beginning of any play or any television or film program. How do you introduce plot and also background? It's interesting. We have a cut. In the manuscript, or a struck through bit, some of the detailing about the father of the Black Prince and the father of Richard and all that. It's slightly longer as written out, and we've done the full text here. But you get the impression that in a production, or which the manuscript might be from, they're going, yeah, just trim a few lines out of that. We don't need. They know who the Black Prince is. That's fine. Whereas actually today, I think a modern audience actually wants more of that, because fewer people know who the Black Prince is, and they give a slightly because he's Black Prince because it's usually, isn't it? It's supposed to be his armor, but in this it's just because he's killed so many Frenchmen.
He's probably more historically accurate, right? He killed a lot of French people.
Oh yeah. Oh no. It's so far we're not completely out of the realm of history. I mean, there's it's all based on reasonable stuff. I don't know the historicity of the poisoning itself here, or the attempted poisoning, but it's an interesting thing. I don't want to go too far because we haven't delved very far into the text yet, but I think we've got a sense of the exposition. There's been a plot. Bad things are afoot. But don't worry, plain Thomas, good Thomas, plain dealing Thomas is going to come on stage. So
quick question.
Yes.
Coat of English frieze. Any gloss on that?
I just wonder whether it might be just kind of like a trim around the bottom of the cuffs and something, I don't know,
No, it's material.
Right,
frieze is a woven material.
It's specifically is a coarse. It's a coarser weave. So whereas everybody else is in their finery, he's wearing something much plainer.
Oh, so it's akin maybe to the bays and says, which East Anglia was famous for.
Yeah, that it's that sort of thing. So it's an immediate, not only visual signifier of what his dressing down, his Gandhi-like robes. It's that he's very visually different to his brothers, who are all already on stage.
And also,
go Liz.
Well, it just makes you wonder, they're making such a thing about him being plain and simple. You just wonder whether this is being set up, that he turns out not to be as plain and simple after all. I don't know, it just struck me that could be a...
Good thought. Let's see where the play takes us.
Okay.
I like it. Okay, any additional thoughts about, many of the room don't know where this is going, so I'm always interested in what the audience's initial reaction is. Okay, let's meet Thomas. Enter Thomas of Woodstock in frieze. The mace before him, or carried before him, the Lord Mayor Exton and others with lights afore then.
And see, his grace himself is come to greet you. By your leave there, room for my Lord Protector's grace.
Health to your grace.
I salute your healths, good brothers. Pray pardon me, I will speak with you anon. Hie thee, good Exton. Good Lord Mayor, I do beseech ye, prosecute with your best care a means for all our safeties. Mischief hath often double practices, treachery wants not his second stratagem. Who knows, but steel may hit, though poison fail. Alack the day, the night is made a veil to shadow mischief. Set, I beseech, strong guard, and careful to attend the city. Our Lady help, we know not who our friends, our foes are grown so mighty. Pray be careful.
Your friends are great in London, good my lord. I'll front all dangers, trust it on my word.
And exit the Lord Mayor.
Thanks from my heart. I swear, for my God, I know not which way to bestow myself. The time's so busy and so dangerous too. Why, how now, brothers? How fares good John O'Gaunt? Thou'rt vexed, I know. Thou grievest, kind Edmund York. Arundel and Surrey, noble kinsmen, I know ye are all discontented much, but be not so. For my God, I swear, King Richard loves you all, and credit me, the princely gentleman is innocent of this black deed and base conspiracy. Speak, how is't with princely Lancaster?
Sick, Gloucester, sick. We all are weary, and fain we would lie down to rest ourselves, but that so many serpents lurk in the grass, we dare not sleep.
Enough. Good brother, I have found out the disease. When the head aches, the body is not healthful. King Richard's wounded with a wanton humour, lulled and secured by flattering sycophants, but 'tis not deadly yet, it may be cured. Some vein let blood where the corruption lies, and all shall heal again.
Then lose no time, lest it grow ulcerous. The false Tresilian, Greene, and Bagot run naught but poison, brother. Spill them all.
They guide the nonage king. 'Tis they protect him. Ye wear the title of protectorship, but like an under-officer, as though yours were derived from theirs. Faith, ye are too plain.
In my apparel, you'll say.
Good faith in all. The commons murmur against the dissolute king. Treason is whispered at each common table, as customary as their thanks to heaven. Men need not gaze up to the sky to see whether the sun shine clear or no. 'Tis found by the small light should beautify the ground. Conceit you me, a blind man thus much sees. He wants his eyes, to whom we bend our knees.
You all are princes of the royal blood, yet like great oaks ye let the ivy grow to eat your hearts out with his false embraces. Ye understand, my lord?
Aye, good cuz, as if you plainly said, destroy those flatterers, and tell King Richard he does abase himself to countenance them. Soft, soft. Fruit that grows high is not securely plucked. We must use ladders, and by steps ascend, till by degrees we reach the altitude. You concede me too. Pray be smooth a while. Tomorrow is the solemn nuptial day betwixt the king and virtuous Anna Bean, the emperor's daughter, a right gracious lady that's come to England for King Richard's love. Then, as you love his grace and hate his flatterers, discountenance not the day with the least frown. Be ignorant of what you know. For my God, I have good hope this happy marriage, brothers, of this so noble and religious princess will mildly calm his headstrong youth, to see and shun those stains that blurs his majesty. If not, by good King Edward's bones, our royal father, I will remove those hinderers of his health that cost my head.
On these conditions, brother, we agree.
We agree.
And I.
And I.
To hide our hate is soundest policy.
And Brother Gloucester, since it is your pleasure to have us smooth our sullen brows with smiles, we'd have you suit your outside to your heart, and like a courtier cast this country habit, for which the coarse and vulgar call your grace by the title of plain Thomas. Yet we doubt not tomorrow we shall have good hope to see your high protectorship in bravery.
No, good York, this is as fair a sight. My heart is in this plain frieze, sits true and right. In this I will serve my king as true and bold as if my outside were all trapped in gold.
By Mary, but you shall not, brother Woodstock. What? The marriage day to Richard and his queen? And will ye so disgrace the state and realm? We'll have you brave, i' faith.
Well, for your sakes, brothers, and this solemn day, for once I'll sumpter a gaudy wardrobe. But 'tis more than I have down, I vow, this 20 years. For my God, the king could not have entreated me to leave this habit, but your wills be done. Let's hie to court. You all your wishes have. One weary day, plain Thomas will be brave.
And so, at the end of the scene, finally everyone's persuaded Thomas to wear some proper clothes.
Some suitable clothes.
Or improper clothes.
Yeah, there's lots. I have to say, I think structurally, you're talking about the danger of some of the exposition maybe coming across as comic. I think it's actually very nicely structured, actually, as, you know, the reinforcement of making sure you know who these very important characters are. But disguising it with a bit of action so that everyone's rushing around while it's happening. So you just hopefully let that slide past. And then Woodstock comes in and he reinforces who everybody's in by going around and comforting them in a really nice way. I really like that. And then they start moving on to an extension of the plot. You know, that the king may have done this. Why might he have done this? It's the people around him. We start getting names of the people around him. And also suggestion that the marriage is another bit of plot coming up. He's getting a wife. Maybe maybe his Anne will calm him down. And let's all keep everything tied in. I really like that as a scene. It actually packs a lot in. And you know, if it packs a little too much in, I think that's fine. But you can disagree. Everyone is free to disagree. Other thoughts about this scene?
Well, what Liz said about Woodstock maybe not being quite so plain and simple as he is reputed. I mean, that was a good call, because what he was saying there in his speech about just you know, keep quiet, let's see how this goes, we need to ascend first before we start plucking the fruit. He's clearly quite savvy.
Yeah, and he says something else about double. It was at the beginning, it struck me. And I can't find it now. Talk amongst yourselves, I'll find it.
Yes.
Just to
Alexandra, I see Helen and Pamela as well waving. No, Alexandra, go first.
I was just going to say, yes, in support of what Sarah was just saying, they describe him as plain, and then the first thing he does is not talk plainly and advise them not to either. So it's a really nice sort of twist. I was just going to point out he swears a lot. So you get a lot of "for my God" and similar, and I didn't notice that in any of the previous dialogue. So I don't know. That establishes something.
Lancaster swears quite a lot as well. Mind you, he has just someone's been trying to poison him, so he.
Well, Woodstock has lots of vocal tics. It's really interesting because he has the no, well, soft, and so there's obviously. I mean, whether that's affectation or not, to go with his plainness, there's a lot going on there. Helen, I thought you were wanting to come in.
Yeah, Woodstock has got a really difficult job, obviously, with the realm for which he is responsible as Lord Protector is dissolving into factions. And he's in the middle, holding it together, persuading everyone to a peace.
Just a question on that. Is Woodstock supposed to be of the same status by birth as the lords who we recognise the names of?
Yes, he's the youngest brother.
He's the brother.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm not aware of the structure of the court at that time, so that was why I was asking the question.
So I mean, it sort of outlined some of it. King Edward III is all their fathers. Richard II is the son by their dead brother, the Black Prince. So you've got York, Lancaster, and Woodstock are all brothers of differing age. And then you've got, the earls lower down about as well. I think I'm getting that right. So it's a family affair, and obviously what they've got is a king in minority as well. So he's not fully grown up yet. So
the fact that Woodstock is the protectorate, though the Lord Protectorate, would that not make him slightly higher than his brothers?
Oh, yes. Yes.
In terms of office, but not in terms of birth.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I must admit, I'm looking at it from a slightly cynical viewpoint with this whole issue about his clothing. That effectively the lords whose names are more immediately recognisable, Lancaster, York, are very much into gaudy clothing. Strikes me Woodstock's the one who's got the brain cell.
Well, or at least the players putting that forward. I remember, of course, the Duke of Lancaster's name is John of Gaunt, and of course we might know him better by that name.
Yes.
Those as a character historically, and also in other fiction available. Any additional thoughts, Liz? Have you found?
Yes, he says mischief hath often double practices. That just struck me when he said that, as maybe following on from my probably false theory.
I think there's evidence, certainly of complexity, if not outright double dealing.
Tiny point. Anna Beam is Anne of Bohemia.
Right. Who will be seeing in two scenes in after the next scene. So we will be meeting this princess. Ages of these events do not necessarily quite tarry, but we'll worry about that later. Okay, any final thoughts before we move into scene 2 and we meet some of those scoundrels that Thomas doesn't approve of?
Well, just on a personal note, because I'm playing Tresilian and I haven't read ahead, that was a really useful scene because he was mentioned a couple of times. So now I know that he's a and that he's a...
You notice that York thinks you're a scoundrel.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's true.
He's He's perceived as a scoundrel by those who believe that they have the inherited right to rule everything.
True.
However, let's see whether the play pushes you in that direction.
Wow.
Okay, so we have people entering in a rage, and it's suggested actually that what's written in your script is slightly the wrong way round. So I'm going to say it as I think is probably more accurate. Enter Greene in a rage, and Bagot and Tresilian. And for this scene, we've got changing Greenes. So for this scene, Greene is played by Tamara.
Nay, good Sir Henry, King Richard calls for you.
Prithee, sweet Greene, visit his highness and forsake these passions.
Sblood, I'm vexed. Tresilian, mad me not. Myself and I and all are now undone. The lords at London are secured from harm, the plots revealed, black curses seize the traitor.
Internal torments whip that Carmelite.
A deeper hell than limbo patrum hold him, a fainting villain, confusion crush his soul.
Could the false slave recoil and swore their deaths?
Mischief devour him. Had it but ta'en effect on Lancaster and Edmund, Duke of York, those headstrong uncles to the gentle king, the third brother, plain Thomas the Protector, had quickly been removed. But since 'tis thus, our safeties must be cared for, and 'tis best to keep us near the person of the king. Had they been dead, we'd ruled the realm and him.
So shall we, so long as Richard lives. I know he cannot brook his stubborn uncles. Come think on it, not on it. Cheer thee, Tresilian, here's better news for thee. We have so wrought with kingly Richard that by his consent you are already mounted on your footcloth, your scarlet or your purple, which ye please, and shortly are to underprop the name. Mark me, Tresilian, of the Lord Chief Justice of England.
Legit or non-legit, methinks already I sit upon the bench with dreadful frowns, frightening the lousy rascals, and when the jury once cries, guilty, could pronounce, Lord have mercy on thee, with a brow as rough and stern as surly Rhadamanth. Or when a fellow talks, cry, take him, jailer, clap bolts of iron on his heels and hands. Chief Justice, my lords. I will wear the office in his true ornament.
But good your honour, as 'twill shortly be, you must observe and fashion to the time the habit of your laws. The king is young, ay, and a little wanton, so perhaps are we. Your laws must not be beadles then, Tresilian, to punish your benefactors. Look to that.
How, sir, to punish you, the minions to the king, the jewels of his heart, his dearest loves? Zoons, I will screw and wind the stubborn law to any fashion that shall like you best. It shall be law what I shall say is law, and what's most suitable to all your pleasures.
Thanks to your lordship, which is yet to come.
Farewell, Tresilian, still be near the court. Anon King Richard shall confirm thy state. We must attend his grace to Westminster, to the high nuptials of fair Anne Abeam, that must be now his wife and England's queen.
And exit Greene and Bagot, and remains Tresilian.
So let them pass, Tresilian. Now bethink thee, Lord Chief Justice. Methinks already I am swelled more plump than erst I was. Authority's a dish that feeds men fat, an excellent delicate. Yet best be wise, no state secure without some enemies. The dukes will frown. Why, I can look as grim as John of Gaunt, and all that frown with him. But yet until mine office be put on by kingly Richard, I'll conceal myself, framing such subtle laws that Janus-like may with a double face salute them both. I'll search my brain and turn the leaves of law. Wit makes us great. Greatness keeps fools in awe.
And we'll just pause there before you call for another character to enter on stage. Tresilian, a fine, upstanding member of the bar. There's a few nice things asking at the beginning. Read or not read. Is that to do with neck verse? I wonder. Whether the person you are going to sentence is going to get hanged or not. Call on Radamanth. We haven't had Radamanth for a while. Always nice to have a revisit.
Spanish tragedy.
Spanish tragedy
Yes,
associated with
yes.
justice. So if anyone's going to be calling on Radamanth, it's probably going to be the victims of Tresilian.
I'm getting a right feeling of deja vu with Famous Victories.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got almost exactly the same setup, haven't you? Of the young king with a group of people of dubious ethical standards around him.
And you've got a Lord Chief Justice of England.
That's
right. I mean,
albeit a horribly corrupt one, as opposed to one who is an upstanding citizen.
Well, but again, pass on Famous Victories.
Yeah.
I'll screw and wind the stubborn law to any fashion that shall like you best. I mean, that's a mission statement, isn't it?
Yeah.
And what's changed?
Well, but the fact they enter coming on just going, damn it, those poisoners, you just can't get the staff. So there's no doubt the poisoning was a thing, and these people did organise it on behalf of the king. That's not is it fully expounded as to whether they're just doing it on behalf of the king, or whether the king actually explicitly gave the order?
Deniable responsibility, sir.
Yeah,
Plausible deniability. Yeah.
Yeah.
But in fact, the point is, they can get nothing under the rule of Woodstock, so they want to get rid of Woodstock because they can manage the king. So it's not really that they're doing it for the king; they're doing it so that they can get control of the king.
Yeah. I mean that's a really good point, and also Tresilian is there thinking about playing both sides against the middle in that speech at the end, going, "Of course I'm,"
Yes, the idea of the double practice coming in again.
Yeah,
actually,
it's Janus-like.
Yes,
is a really good line. Other thoughts.
I wonder whether the Carmelite personage has any. Is that just they just refer to him? Is that why the plot was foiled, or whether there's?
It's always a Carmelite friar poisoning people. It always is. I don't know if it is. Is it in King John, the John Bale, that the poisonous friar who kills King John is a Carmelite? I can't remember, but in back of my mind, every time there's a poisoning involving a friar, it's always a Carmelite friar.
Okay.
Also,
possibly
Robert,
they have
did you just
special
mention
expertise.
a play by He Who Must Not Be Named?
No, John Bale.
Okay.
It's there are about 5 different plays, if not 6 or 7 plays with King John in. King Johann is a play written in around 1530s-ish, revised several times until about 1560 by a chap called John Bale, who's based in Suffolk, and travelled to Ireland, where he went over there, tried to persuade some Catholics to be Protestant, and lots of people died. But that's a story for another day.
See the podcast for details, I think.
Yes. We were going to be doing that in a live show, that whole story, but that will be another time. Pamela was going to be Satan in one of his plays.
I was very excited.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, we've gone on a massive tangent. And that's before we even get to the troublesome reign of King John. So there's so many King Johns out there. It's very popular, very popular. Additional thoughts? No. Okay, let's move on to the rest of the scene. So Tresilian is about to call for his man. Call for
my man there. Ho! Where's Nimble?
Enter
As
Nimble.
nimble as a Neil, sir. Did you call, sir?
Sir? Look up the better phrase. Salute again.
I know no other, sir, unless you will be Frenchified and let me say the monsieur to your charge, or sweet signor.
Neither. 'Tis higher yet. Nimble, thou buckram scribe, think once again.
Neither sir, nor monsieur, nor signor. What should I call him? He's monstrously translated suddenly. At first when we were schoolfellows, then I called him Sirrah. But since he became my master, I pared away the and left him with the sir. What title has he got now? I know not, but I'll try further. Has your worship any employment for me?
Thou gross uncaput, thou speakest not yet.
My mouth was open, I'm sure. If your honour would please to hear me.
Ah, honour, sayest thou? Aye, now thou hittest it, Nimble.
I knew I should wind about you till I had your honour.
Nimble, bend thy knee. The Lord Chief Justice of England speaks to thee.
The Lord be praised, we shall have a flourishing commonwealth, sir.
Peace, let me speak to thee. Oh. Did I cut out there?
Yes.
No,
Oh,
No, it's fine. It's Nimble.
Nimble's
Okay.
just pausing for effect.
Oh.
Oh, really?
Sorry, no, I'm confused. I missed a cue.
Okay, we'll
Oh,
go
right,
again.
okay.
Shall I
I'll give.
go from?
It was beautiful. However, I think it dramatically worked.
I'll
Go
give you
again, Tresilian.
I'll give you a line in, yeah. Peace, let me speak to thee.
Yes, anything, so your honour not pray for me. I care not for you now, your Lord Chief Justice. If ever you cry, Lord have mercy upon me, I shall hang for it, sure.
No, those fearful words shall not be pronounced against thee, Nimble.
Thank ye, my lord. Nay, and you'll stand between me and the gallows? I'll be an arrant thief, sure. If I cannot pick up my crumbs by the law quickly, I'll cast away my buckram bags and be a highway lawyer now, certainly.
Canst thou remember, Nimble, how by degrees I rose, since first thou knew'st me? I was first a schoolboy.
Aye, saving your honour's speech, your worshipful tale was whipped for stealing my dinner out of my satchel. You were ever so crafty in your childhood that I knew your worship would prove a good lawyer.
Interrupt me not. Those days, thou knew'st, I say, from whence I did become a plodding clerk, from which I bounced as thou dost now in buckram, to be a pleading lawyer, and there I stayed till by the king I was Chief Justice made. Nimble, I read this discipline to thee to stir thy mind up still to industry.
Thank your good lordship.
Go to thy mistress, lady, you now must call her. Bid her remove her household up to London. Tell her our fortunes, and with how much peril we have attained this place of eminence. Go and remove her.
With a habeas corpus or a sursararis, I assure you. And so I leave your lordship, always hoping of your wanted favour. That's when I have passed the London Bridge of Affliction. I may arrive with you at the Westminster Hall of Promotion. And then I care not.
Thou shalt. Thou hast an executing look, and I will put the axe into thy hand. I rule the law. Thou by the law shalt stand.
I thank your lordship, and a fig for the rope, then.
And they exit. What an interesting pairing, because it's not a master and his boy, as you know, he calls boy. They're contemporaries.
Yeah.
And yet the status shift from them in their school days and the tension that creates is really interesting. I thought that was fascinating, because that the asides as well as what's going on, and aspire to be like me, boy.
That's not going to go well.
Yeah.
But you get the impression it's not the first time that Nimble has had the whole story of how he rose up through the ranks and everything. It's, oh God, I'm going to go through that again. It's that type of. feeling
As
about
well as
it.
he was there.
Yeah.
Nimble says, I remember you
Yeah.
as a schoolboy. You stole my lunch.
Yeah.
And were whipped for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
By me. Yeah.
Well, no. I mean,
Oh, really?
no, I don't think by him. I
No.
would say the schoolmaster.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
it's the
he
thing,
doesn't
he's
want to remember that.
he's rewriting his own narrative in front of his eyes, and it's going, this is the story you need to be sending out now.
Yeah, this is the press release.
But worry not, we'll rise together. If you do all the dirty work for me. I mean, that's the thing. Keep my hands lily white, isn't it?
I've got a bad feeling about that. That is not a good relationship. That's going to go pear-shaped very quickly, I think. Oh, mind you, my predictions are totally wrong. I don't have a good feeling about that one.
But I'm with you on that, Sarah, because when there's hanging involved, and no, you won't get hanged. There's not a problem. We've had previous experience that is not the way it works.
Yeah.
Helen, I think you wanted.
Yeah, I mean, this relationship is, I'm trying to think of a parallel in any other early modern play. Two people who have risen together and one of whom is now the master of the other.
It's a really interesting relationship.
Yeah.
And it just immediately gives you so much room for manoeuvre in terms of play, in rehearsals, but also on stage when you're out there in the thick of it.
I mean, it's something that happened a lot in reality. You can point to a large number of examples, sometimes even in the same family, where one is promoted way out of the range of the other. But
does it parallel? Sorry, just wondering. Does that sort of parallel with the placement of the brothers in terms of the protectorship as well? Woodstock is the youngest, but is in theory the highest. I mean, practice he's not.
That's true, actually. Why has he, as the youngest brother, been chosen? That seems a bit odd, actually.
No one would let Gaunt anywhere bloody near it.
On the basis he was the least unacceptable.
Yeah, I think that. Well, there's a whole series of questions that this play doesn't address in terms of actual history. So,
in terms of the people rising, I'm just wondering whether there's echoes here of Wolsey to Thomas Cromwell.
I mean, yes, they've got similar paths. I mean, they didn't, however, grow up together, so that's not quite
but
the same.
from similarly unprivileged backgrounds.
Yeah, that might be a thing.
Well,
anyway,
they're not so underprivileged because they went to school.
Yeah, but they achieved power influence largely through their own efforts rather than through inheritance.
Yeah, I mean, he's a lawyer. He makes a great point of the fact that he's a lawyer, isn't he? Which I mean, that's the Thomas Cromwell story, isn't it?
Yes.
I do love how it looks like nobody ever liked lawyers.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Until you needed one. Nobody likes a lawyer until they need one.
Yeah.
But anyway, the next scene is a very long scene, and we need to crack into it. So I'm going to pause on that. Hold on to any thoughts you've had, because we're now going into a slightly crowded scene. There might be some dancing around. I know at least one character will shift into somebody else at a later date, but we'll see where we get. So we're heading back to the sort of centre of government, as the sounding of a synod. And enter in great state King Richard, Queen Anne, crowned, Lancaster, York, Arundel, Surrey, Greene, Bagot, and Woodstock, very brave. So he's changed costume, basically. The Duchess of Gloucester, who will get about 2 lines, and the Duchess of Ireland, who I don't think says a damn thing. So, enter the King.
Bagot and Greene, next to the fair Queen Anne, take your high places by King Richard's side, and give fair welcome to our Queen and bride. Uncle of Woodstock, York, and Lancaster, make full our wishes and salute our Queen. Give all your welcomes to fair Anne abeam.
I hope, sweet prince, her grace mistakes us not to make our hearts the worse a part of us. Our tongues have, in our English eloquence, harsh though it is, pronounced her welcomes many, by oaths and loyal protestations, to which we add 1,000 infinites. But in a word, fair queen, for ever welcome.
Let me prevent the rest, for mercy's sake. If all their welcomes be as long as thine, this health will not go round this week by the mass. Sweet queen and cousin, now I'll call you so, in plain and honest phrase, welcome to England. Think they speak all in me, and you have seen all England cry with joy, God bless the queen! And so afore my God, I know they wish it. Only I fear my duty not misconsted. Nay, King Richard, for God, I'll speak the truth. Sweet queen, you've found a young and wanton choice, a wild head, yet a kingly gentleman, a youth unsettled, yet he's princely bred, descended from the royalst bloods in Europe, the kingly stock of England and of France, yet he's a harebrain, a very waggy faith, but you must bear, madam. Lass, he's but a blossom, but his maturity I hope you'll find true English bred, a king loving and kind.
I thank ye for your double praise, good uncle.
Aye, good coz. I'm plain Thomas, by the rood I'll speak the truth.
My sovereign lord, and you true English peers, your all-accomplished honours have so tied my senses by a magical restraint in the sweet spells of this your fair demeanours, that I am bound and charmed from what I was. My native country I no more remember, but as a tale told in my infancy. The greatest part forgot, and that which is appears to England's fair Elysium, like brambles to the cedars, coarse to fine, or like the wild grape to the fruitful vine. And having left the earth where I was bred, and English made, let me be English shed. The best shall please me, show me English call. My heart, great king, to you, my love to all.
Gramercy, Nan, thou highly honourst me.
And blessed is England in this sweet accord.
For my God, sweet queen, our English ladies and all the women that this isle contains shall sing in praise of this your memory, and keep records of virtuous Anne of Beam, whose discipline hath taught them womanhood. What erst seemed well by custom now looks rude. Our women, till your coming, fairest cousin, did use like men to straddle when they ride, but you have taught them now to sit aside. Yet by your leave, young practice often reels. I have seen some of your scholars kick up both their heels.
What have you seen, my lord?
Nay, nothing. Wife, I see little without spectacles, thou know'st.
Trust him not, aunt, for know he's grown so brave, he will be courting. Aye, and kissing too. Nay, uncle, now I'll do as much for you and lay your faults all open to the world.
Aye, do.
I am glad you are grown so careless. Now by my crown, I swear, good uncles York and Lancaster, when you this morning came to visit me, I did not know him in this strange attire. How comes this golden metamorphosis from homespun housewifery? Speak, good uncle. I never saw you hatched and gilded thus.
I am no stoic, my dear sovereign cousin, to make my plainness seem canonical, but to allow myself such ornaments as might be fitting for your nuptial day and coronation of your virtuous queen. But were the eye of day once closed again, upon this back they never more should come.
You have much graced the day, but noble uncle, I did observe what I have wondered at. As we today rode on to Westminster, methought your horse, that wont to tread the ground and pace as if he kicked it scornfully, mound and curvet like strong Bucephalus, today he trod as slow and melancholy as if his legs had failed to bear his load.
can you blame the beast? For my God, he was not wont to bear such loads. Indeed, 100 oaks upon these shoulders hang to make me brave upon your wedding day, and more than that, to make my horse more tired, 10 acres of good land are stitched up here. You know, good cause this was not wont to be.
In your t'other hose, uncle?
Greene.
Oh, no, nor his frieze coat neither.
I mock on. My t'other hose, say it. There's honest, plain dealing in my t'other hose. Should this fashion last, I must raise new rents, undo my poor tenants, turn away my servants, and guard myself with lace. Nay, sell more land, and lordships too, by the rood. Hear me, King Richard. If thus I jet in pride, I still shall lose. But I'll build castles in my t'other hose.
The king but jests, my lord, and you grow angry.
T'other hose, did some here wear that fashion, they would not tax and pill the commons so.
I'm just going to pause there because the scene's getting ugly. And I want to just touch on the opening and actually how this scene is descending in this really nice way. Because you could say the opening of the scene is the worst best man speeches ever. I mean, I don't know if you're playing him as a bit drunk, but is he drunk? Because
he reads that way, doesn't he?
It does. It's like he immediately says to Lancaster, "Oh, you're going on a bit. Shush, 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 shush. I'll do a speech now." And then he goes on forever and ever, and it doesn't stop. And everyone else is trying to, because Richard opens with rhyming couplets. So it's like formal wedding thing happening now, and Lancaster does, and then Woodstock comes. No, I've got a verse speech. Therefore, you could use the word brave as not just brave as in this clothing, but also when Richard says you're very brave, it could be that it's almost as a euphemism for 3 sheets to the wind.
Bravado.
Yeah. But then the scene sort of starts to deteriorate in a really interesting way as they start mocking him back in a light-hearted way, but it gets more pointed. And they're talking about pride and your horse, like Bucephalus. So that's Alexandra's the Great, famous horse. Lovely horse. And it starts getting onto areas where, leave it alone, mate. Leave it alone. This is not the time. And Greene, one of the minions steps in and says something, and the Queen sort of tries to pull everything back, and it's just, you can feel this all just falling apart. Thoughts.
Oh, I love the analogy to the wedding speech, actually, because I mean, I know it is a wedding speech, but my God, I once attended a wedding where that's exactly what happened. The best man told funny stories about the groom. And it started off, like they do, and then it gradually got more and more vindictive, and everybody was shuffling in their seats, and it's like, oh my God! And he was his brother. He was the groom's brother, and it just got really, really awkward. And we did think at one point that they were going to end up fighting, and this is just totally the same thing that's happening here. It's like all his all the kind of resentment that he's saying to John of Gaunt York, no, keep it down. We won't go there yet. Let's be politic. All of a sudden, it just all bubbles up, and wow, yeah, he's using his reputation for plain speaking, isn't he, to just really go for it. And
yeah, he's one of these people who says I'm a plain speaker as an excuse just to be blunt and a bit rude.
Really horrible. Yeah.
I tell it as it is.
I mean, it's that thing. It's because he's talking about, I spend my money wisely on on the people. What, you know, if you spent your money, then immediately goes into politics. And Queen Anne is very swift on going, we don't talk about politics at this wedding, mate. Don't go there. Helen.
Is the Duchess of Gloucester trying to distract him?
I wouldn't be surprised if she's lived with him long enough, I would have thought.
Yeah.
I was reading that as slightly differently, because he says to the Queen, you know, women used to straddle their horses and now you've taught them to put both their legs on the same side. But I've seen some of them who kick their heels up, and the wife is going, you've seen what? Yeah. Oh no, nothing. I can't see without my glasses. Sorry. No.
I only have eyes for you, dear.
Reading that. Sorry?
Yeah. I only have eyes for you, dear. No.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think he's drunk.
Yeah.
But
I hadn't thought of that.
On a completely different note, when I read Anne's longer speech, I felt like there might be a foreign accent in there because of the way that it's, I don't know, the language just made me go, oh, that's a bit, I feel like I should have put on an accent there.
Well, she's making that case about I want to be now English ed, and so if there is an element, you know, if she is of Bohemia, then you know, then there's that sense of trying to fit in.
Because when I got into it, I didn't want to do it halfway through, but I felt like this is definitely somebody who has a foreign accent going, oh, but now I am English because now I am English.
And you know, does she have a clue what's going on apart from people are getting really angry? I mean, that's the thing. How politic is she yet? I mean, I don't know where she goes. I do, but I don't know.
Well, she seems to be intercepting, really cleverly intercepting the kind of, what's the word? The sparks. You know, before and trying to douse them before they become greater flames. She comes in immediately after, I'm plain, Thomas, I'll speak the truth. And she goes, let's talk about how English I want to be.
Yeah. Liz, did you want to say something?
I was just wondering whether, because would he be so careless as to be drunk, or whether he's just putting it on?
I'm just wondering, in fact, whether a lot of this is coming from resentment about effectively the final section of the previous scene, where he's been forced to raid the dressing up box. You know, rather than appearing in what he is comfortable in, he's being forced to appear in pomp, which is obviously not his preferred modus operandi.
Everybody's definitely mocking him about that.
Yeah.
I mean,
And he's in a no-win, because effectively the Lords are going to take the mick out of him if he turns up plain. And, you know, he's put on stuff which he's basically saying, look, this is a crazy use of resources.
It would also turn him to drink, probably. If he's,
if
he's turned up and he's feeling really uncomfortable.
I think there is, Liz has a point here. We've leapt on the drunkenness, but, you know, there isn't anything in the text actually saying that. It just seems like a very good fit.
It's well to be played, certainly.
And so there is, you know, we should make that clear, that, you know, the scene could be played in different ways, and, you know, what is going on with Woodstock, you know. He's certainly not sticking to the plan he's told his brothers, as we're about to go into. And I think I'd just like to go Woodstock, if you could actually go back to the T'other Hose line, to cue in York and Lancaster, because they're going to sort of speak at little asides to each other going, oh, bugger. Woodstock, please, T'other Hose.
T'other Hose. Did some here wear that fashion? They would not tax and pill the commons so.
Sorry, I haven't a clue where we are.
Sfoot he for Wanders.
Page 14.
I don't have.
Shall I give you that cue again?
Am I?
Very top of page 14.
Is it York to speak?
Yes. Sfoot he for Wanders.
Yeah, I.
To Lancaster.
Oh, got it. Yeah.
Cue them in again,
Thank you.
Woodstock.
Other hoes, did some here wear that fashion? They would not tax and pill the commons so.
Sfoot, he warned us, and will break out himself.
No matter, we'll back him, though it grows to blows.
Scoff ye my plainness, I will talk no riddles. Plain Thomas will speak plainly. There's Bagot there, and Greene.
And what of them,
And what
my
of them,
lord?
my lord?
Upstarts, come down, you have no places there. Here is better men to grace King Richard's chair. If it pleased his grace, him grace them so.
Uncle, forbear.
These cut the columns that should prop thy house. They tax the poor, and I am scandaled for it, that by my fault those late oppressions rise to set the commons in a mutiny, that London even itself was sacked by them. And who did all these rank commotions? Point at, even at these two. Bagot here, and Greene, with false Tresilian, whom your grace hath made chief justice. Well, be it so. Mischief on mischief sure will shortly flow. Pardon my speech, my lord, since now we're all so brave to grace Queen Anne. This day we will spend in sport, but in my t'other hose I'll tickle them for it.
Oh, come, ye dote, my lord.
Dote, sir? Know ye to whom ye speak?
No more, good uncles. Come, sweet Greene, have done. I'll ring them all for this by England's crown. Why is our Lord Protector so outrageous?
Because thy subjects have such outrage shown them by these thy flatterers. Let the sun dry up what unwholesome fog hath choked the ground with. Here's Arundel, thy ocean's admiral, hath brought thee home a rich and wealthy prize, taken 70 sail of ships and 6 great carracks, all richly laden. Let those goods be sold to satisfy those borrowed sums of coin their pride hath forced from the needy commons. To salve which inconvenience, I beseech your grace you would vouchsafe to let me have the sale and distribution of those goods.
Our word, good uncle, is already past, which cannot with our honour be recalled. Those wealthy prizes already are bestowed on these our friends.
On them,
them,
my
my
lord.
My lord.
Yes, who storms at it?
Shall cankers eat the fruit that planting and good husbandry hath nourished?
Cankers.
Aye, caterpillars.
Caterpillars.
Worse than consuming fires, that eats up all their furies falls upon.
Once more be still. Who is't that dares encounter with our will? We did bestow them. Hear me, kind uncles, we shall ere long be past protectorship. Then will we rule ourself, and even till then we let ye know those gifts are given to them. We did it, Woodstock.
Ye have done ill, then.
Ha! Dare ye say so?
Dare I? Oh my God, I'll speak, King Richard, were I assured this day my head should off. I tell you, sir, my allegiance stands excused in justice of the cause. Ye have done ill. The sun of mercy never shine on me, but I speak truth. When warlike Arundel, beset at sea, fought for those wealthy prizes, he did with fame advance the English cross, still crying, "Courage! In King Richard's name, for thee he won them, and that do thou enjoy them, he'll fetch more honours home. But had he known that kites should have enjoyed the eagle's prize, the fraught had swum unto thine enemies."
So, sir, we'll soothe your vexed spleen, good uncle, and mend what is amiss. To those slight gifts not worth acceptance, thus much more we add. Young Henry Greene shall be Lord Chancellor. Bagot, Lord Keeper of our Privy Seal. Tresilian, learned in our kingdom's laws, shall be Chief Justice. By them and their directions, King Richard will uphold his government.
Change no more words, my lord. Ye do deject your kingly majesty to speak to such whose homespun judgments like their frosty beards, would blast the blooming hopes of all your kingdom, were I as you, my lord.
Oh, gentle Greene, throw no more fuel on, but rather seek to mitigate this heat. Be patient, Kingly Richard, quench this ire. Would I had tears of force to stint this fire.
Beshrew the churls that make my queen so sad. But by my grandsire Edward's kingly bones, my princely father's tomb, King Richard swears we'll make them weep these wrongs in bloody tears. Come, fair Queen Anne Beam, Bagot and Greene, keep by King Richard's side. But as for you, we'll shortly make your stiff obedience bow.
And exit the Queen and King and Duchesses, etc. Just going to pause here before we go into the final stroke for the act. Well, yeah, that definitely went downhill fast. I love that doubling down. It's just, not only am I going to give all this money not to the poor, but I'm going to give it to my mates, but I'm also then immediately turns around and gives them high office as well. Queen Anne attempts to play reconciler again, and it's immediately reinterpreted that you've upset my wife. How dare you, uncles? Woodstock's referring to at this point the Commons in mutiny. That's the Peasants' Revolt. That's the Life and Death of Jack Straw, which we've had previously. So the thing to remember about the Peasants' Revolt is some lords came out of that better than others. And so previous high up positions got a tad bit deaded, or if you were most of the brothers, you weren't even about at the time, actually. I mean, there's Gaunt was stuck in the north and couldn't actually make it back down for the Peasants' Revolt. So there's a certain amount of absenteeism of all of these characters in the earlier play, because they don't really fit into that narrative. But yeah, here's Woodstock doing all that. Give to the poor. He's a proper Robin Hood, isn't he? Sort of. Whereas Richard's all jobs for the boys. It seems. Thoughts about that descent?
He didn't choose the best time to do this, did he? No. Really? I mean, there was no way he was going to be listened to.
No.
I just have this image of my mind of like after everyone's gone off in a strop and like the servants are clearing up the broken glass afterwards going, oh, that could have gone better. It's like, it's a wedding, folks. Like, no, let's just have a fight anyway.
I think that connection with the wedding and disastrous wedding, that's got to be deliberate. I mean, it's not a coincidence, and that it's created this wonderful dramatic crucible for all this stuff to happen. Helen, you were leaning forward with intent.
It just strikes me that it is so vital and so easily we can so easily associate with it. I mean, we know exactly who these people are. We've met a lot of them, and there is no ambiguity at all about what's going on.
It's a bit of a change from last week. I was thinking the contrast between the game of chess.
Also, contrast to famous victories. It's only about 5 years later that this is dated, but it's quite a different style, and it's different playwrights, different companies, different styles of history play. Doing different things. Alexandra.
There's an interesting structural thing that I think is very, very effective, whereby the first scene introduced us to one faction and had their opinion of the other faction. Then the second scene gave us, the king's sycophants as the second faction and their opinions. And the third scene puts them together and it all explodes.
Yeah.
So I thought that's clearly sort of structurally delineated in a very, very clear way.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't quite finished Act One, but we've really established this setup, and everyone's repeated each other's names enough for us to know who everybody is. And don't knock that. I think it's a very important thing that some people do not pay attention or do not key into events immediately and need that, and that's fine. But of course, we also have visual signifiers. We can imagine that Greene and Bagot are very, very different people in terms of age as well. I mean, what we're talking about is uncles versus a younger generation to some degree. Or you could do it that way, and I don't know whether it's difficult to know how old people are supposed to be, because historically some of these people are from all over the shop, so their ages are a span. But that seems to be the internal logic.
On the age thing, I was just thinking, like, it is when you're reading Richard, and it's very much that kind of teenage, don't tell me what to do, I'm the king, the more you push me, the more I'm gonna kick back. And I remember being like that as a teenager and being like so stroppy with people who would try and tell me what to do with my life. So yeah.
Yes, because it's not that long since the Peasants' Revolt happened, in terms of the logic of the play. So, he's, 16, 17, he's not in his majority yet, but he's very close to it. So he is that stroppy teenager kind of thing. Though teenagers haven't been invented yet.
No.
I mean, what I'm missing here is the normal reverence for someone who is a hereditary monarch.
I tell ye, sir.
Yeah.
Woodstock spits it at him.
Yeah. But no, I mean, in the writing, in the play, because I mean, mostly there is a great deal of reverence for monarchs, generally. One doesn't show them as... I mean, Richard II isn't supposed to be that bad.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's
according to the rules, the Tudor rules.
Yeah. But he is not going to come out of this well. So, but yeah, you're right. I think it does go a lot further than you would expect. Richard II is no Richard III. He's not the out and out monster that gets defeated. He is supposed to be where everything goes wrong for a while and everything gets a bit messy, but that doesn't make him an out and out villain. Except here, at least he's not an out and out villain here, is he? But he doesn't have any grace at all, really, does he? Or does he?
None of them do, really. Other than Anne.
Yeah.
None of them really. It's like, and that is what that adds to that feeling of it being a crucible, like Alexandra was saying, the fact that they've all been chafing, and now they finally come together. It's like everybody forgets that they're meant to be, kind and noble and gentle, and they just go at each other, and it's kind of great, actually.
I'm going to push us forward to the end of the scene and the end of the act, and where we will stop. So remember that Richard has just this moment stormed out, but there's more storming out to go. So we have the exit of King Richard, and then Bagot and Greene are going to go in short order. I won't read their exit stage directions. So Bagot and Greene.
Remember this, my lords. We keep the seal. Our strength you all shall know.
And we are Chancellor. We love you well. Think so.
God, for his mercy, shall we brook these knaves? Disgraced and threatened thus by fawning knaves.
Shall we that were great Edward's princely sons be thus outbraved by flattering sycophants?
For my God and holy saints, I swear but that my tongue hath liberty to show the inly passions boiling in my breast, I think my overburdened heart would break. What then may we conjecture? What's the cause of this remiss and inconsiderate dealing, urged by the king and his confederates, but hate to virtue and a mind corrupt with all preposterous rude misgovernment?
These prizes, ta'en by warlike Arundel, before his face are given to those flatterers.
Oh, do we have a Surrey?
I just realised that I'm going to jump in for that again.
It is his custom to be prodigal to any but to those do best deserve.
Because he knew you would bestow them well, he gave it such as for their private gain, neglect both honour and the country's good.
How now? What noise is this?
Some posts, it seems. Pray heaven the news be good.
Amen, I pray, for England's happiness.
And enter Cheney with news.
Speak, speak, what tidings, Cheney?
Of war, my lord, and civil dissension. The men of Essex and of Kent and Essex do rebel.
I thought no less, and all the ways feared as much.
The Shreves in post have sent unto your grace that order be ta'en to spare the commons, for fear rebellion rise in open arms.
Now, headstrong Richard, shalt thou reap the fruit thy lewd licentious wilfulness hath sown. I know not which way to bestow myself.
There's no standing on delay, my lords. These hot eruptions must have some redress, or else in time they will grow incurable.
The commons, they rebel, and the king, all careless, hears wrong on wrong to stir more mutiny. For my God, I know not what to do.
Take open arms, join with the vexed commons, and hail his minions from his wanton side. Their heads cut off, the people's satisfied.
Not so, not so. Alack the day, good brother, we may not so affright the tender prince. We'll bear us nobly for the kingdom's safety and the king's honour. Therefore list to me. You, brother Gaunt, and noble Arundel, shall undertake by threats or fair entreaty to pacify the murmuring commons' rage. And whilst you there employ your service ours, we presently will call a parliament and have their deeds examined thoroughly, whereby if by fair means we can win no favour nor make King Richard leave their companies, we'll thus resolve, for our dear country's good, to right her wrongs, or for it spend our bloods.
About it then, we for the commons, you for the court.
Aye, aye, good Lancaster, I pray be careful. Come, brother York, we soon shall right all wrong, and send some headless from the court ere long.
And the scene ends. There's more. Oh, those Kent and Essex, they just can't stop rebelling. It's just, once you pop, you just can't stop. And it's the fact that, there's Woodstock is initially utterly, he doesn't know. He literally says, "I do not know what to do." But then John of Gaunt does what John of Gaunt does, which is says, "Let's just kill them all." Because he's got such a great reputation as John of Gaunt. He really does. None of them, actually, let's be honest, none of these brothers, I think, in terms of history, are actually very nice. They're all in it for themselves. This play does so many twists with actual event. The spin is fascinating. But it's that sense that Woodstock is using this crisis as a way of trying to undercut these minions, and using, while everyone's distracted, we'll do some legal things and hopefully we'll get them while nobody's paying attention. So this is sort of disaster politics in action. I think there's but the pride of the men as well. There's something actually really quite unpleasant about these three older uncles going, "How dare they, young upstarts, attack us?" And actually, there's something a little unsettling about that of them. That little hint of, yes, they look like they're possibly good people. They were poisoned, almost poisoned at the beginning of the play. But yeah, are they? Are they nice people?
Massively entitled people.
Yeah.
You feel like saying, "Okay, boomer."
I was going to say, because I can see Greene, Bagot and them lot being hipsters.
Yeah.
They are so hipsterish, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
But Lancaster thinks of himself as a reigning sovereign in Spain because he married the heiress of Castile. Well, one of the heiresses of Castile, the unsuccessful heiress of Castile. But he then says, take open arms, join with the vexed commons. So Lancaster is actually suggesting taking up arms against the king.
Mm.
I mean, shades of what will happen in a few years' time.
Mm.
Is it against the king, though, Helen? Because with the peasants' revolt, didn't they do a similar thing where the commons got as far as the tower and then demanded specific people to be removed, but nobody ever had any intent of dethroning him. So
yeah,
it's about.
Well, it's hail his minions from his wanton side. So it's Bagot and Greene and all those people.
Yes, during the peasants' revolt, they were explicitly, actually, one of their chants was calling on justice of the king. They were always calling on the king. They weren't marching against him. I mean, I think you're right.
What Lancaster's proposing as well.
Yeah, using the uproar to remove the minions.
Yes, but this is absolutely, even up to the English Civil War, the parliamentary side declared themselves for the king and Parliament. I mean, nobody ever says that they're against the king, however much they may be. But I mean, what he is suggesting here looks to me joining with the vexed commons like treason.
I must admit, I'm coming at this from possibly a slightly different angle, because what we've got is a generational fight. You've got the three uncles, York, Lancaster, Woodstock, who are a generation older than the associates who at the moment seem to be in the ascendancy, Bagot, Greene, Tresilian. And I'm almost reading this as a situation of the elders basically saying, look, we've been taking the spoils for donkey's years, why the hell should we give them up?
It's also a class thing.
Yeah.
Because the new favourites are people of, I don't say they're not gentlemen, but they're not people of noble birth.
They're not aristos.
Well, it's more than that. The three uncles are sons of the king.
Or, well, of a former king, yes.
Yeah, but nevertheless, I mean, they're princes. And they're being displaced by nobodies.
I mean, I can see a modern political resonance.
I can see many modern political resonances here.
You could play the three uncles as old Etonians, you know, and the Arrivists as comprehensive school lads,
or vice versa, and you've got
I don't see vice versa working.
You've got a mass of aged trade union stuff and a load of young Etonians. Yeah.
Anyway, yes. Okay, so we have reached the end. We have reached the end of Act One, and you know, I think I set up the play remarkably well. I'm really liking the fact that we, you know, I don't know where to place the king yet in all of this. Actually, the king himself. I mean, he hasn't actually said a lot.
No.
You know, we know that, you know, he's got minions, he's got bad counsellors, and there's plenty of, you know, incidences of, you know, to some degree, you know, your counsellors are obliged to tell the king that they're wrong when they see the king in error, and there is that question of, you know, you choose your advisors carefully because they will cause problems if you don't. And you can go back to Henry VIII, and when he was first on the throne, was surrounded by a number of young bloods who many people did not like the look of, who were quietly removed. I say quietly, but there was an element in some of the drama at the time about, you know, talking to, you know, how do you tell your monarch, how do you tell the sovereign that they're wrong? And you've got people who are, you know, Woodstock is trying to some degree, but he's not trying in a very good way. The way he talks to the king is really not good. I mean, the language on it is just so he doesn't seem to speak to him in a very nice way at all.
It's not very diplomatic, and
No.
it made me laugh actually when he says, where is it? When he's talking after Greene's gone out, and he says, "Oh yeah, oh, but that my tongue hath liberty to show the inly passions boiling in my breast." It's like, well, yeah, your tongue was fairly liberal, actually. you did actually do quite a good job of telling him how you felt there. It just, he just kind of lets it all blurt out, doesn't he? And yeah, a little bit more diplomacy would have maybe, but then we wouldn't have a play. So
I think there's an interesting character shift, because after he's done all the damage at the wedding and been very forthright, etc., and then he gets a little bit dithery when they hear about the uprising. I know not what to do. I know not which way to bestow myself. It's just a little bit strange. He gets a bit panicky before taking control again. I don't know.
Well,
it didn't seem to quite sit.
But is he in control at the wedding? I mean, that's the thing. Is we were discussing, if he's drunk, it doesn't mean he has to be drunk, but he does lose control. I think that's a reasonable assessment. And if we want to give it that he loses control because he's drunk, or maybe he's just that's his temper. Maybe.
But if you go back to the poisoning, he arrives. He says, "Nice to see you guys. Just wait a moment while I deal with this." Tells the Lord Mayor to set the guard. Does this, does that. Now, brothers, let's discuss where we are. Then he's very clear. He lays down the policy. He lays down the law. And he seems to be a completely different person to the one at the end of the wedding scene.
Yeah, he's very effective.
He's very effective.
At the beginning, he gives this impression of being incredibly competent. And then, yeah, by the end of the wedding scene, it's all changed.
But also in the first scene, after he tells the mayor what to do, so after what you described, Helen, he then says, "I know not which way to bestow myself." And then he turns to his brothers and go, "Right, how are we feeling? What's going on? I know you're discontented. Here is what we do." So
does he say that in that scene? I've forgotten that.
Yeah, because that's what struck me when we got to this in scene 3. I sort of realized, because we were talking about his tics. There's a lot of a "for my God," but also there seems to be a pattern of very competent. I don't know what to do. Very competent.
Or is it a way of getting people to open up? He's like, "Well, I don't know what to do. How do you feel about this?" And then he can kind of...
Well, he is given options. I mean, sometimes the best way to decide is wait for everybody else to give you the worst possible option. I mean, it's basically what his brother does. He says, let's team up with some rebels and get rid of these people. And he goes, "No, we'll do something else. Thinking time. It's interesting also that the various factions sort of all start speaking, if not in unison, but in a sort of choric way when they're doing the cankers, it's very argy-bargy other side of the terraces suddenly, and that's really interesting. Don't know if you can hear my dog barking in the background.
Can, yes.
She does that a lot.
But a lot of people wrote against caterpillars of the Commonwealth. People who consumed the general good for their own particular purpose.
Right. Well, we've completed actually what I set out to do today. Though we can always crack on into Act 2 if you fancy. But I think we're in one of those things. Some days we're going to have to force the pace, and some days we're a bit under the slack. 'Cause unfortunately, the next scene is irritatingly long. Well, it's not that long, but it's long. It's reasonably long. So I'm tempted to just leave it here. We finished an act. Next time it's going to be a bit tighter. We're going to have to push the pace a little bit tomorrow, which is a shame because we should get to the lovely horse, and we get to talk about that. So final thoughts then from the room about where we are with Act 1, and thoughts for where you might think it goes in the future, or thoughts about what you might want to do to stage this, all of those general ideas. Sarah, I'll start with you.
You could have such fun with that wedding scene. I'd be really tempted to almost add a comedy element to it, where you've got these like lords facing off against each other, and then you've got silent retainers in the background, like whipping things out of their way. You know, like they're about to seize a bottle or a glass to throw at their opponent, and it's like, oh no, I'll just take that because this is a wedding, we're meant to be civilized. You could do so much with that scene, building on the text that's there, but then, you know, working other stuff in around it, you know, based on what's said, and then just adding in all sorts of other physical extras that really ramp up that feeling of the fact that everybody's about to boil over.
Mm.
You know?
Yes, because we got high drama. You know, we got the poisoning at the beginning. We got this wedding, this set piece wedding here. We also have that sort of Tresilian comedy double act question as well in the middle. So there's players presenting all sorts of different paces and tempos and things. Pamela, any final thoughts?
This is more showing my own ignorance of this time period, but I actually don't know what's going to happen. So I've got the feeling it's not going to end well, but I'm quite looking forward to finding out.
Excellent. Alexandra, any final thoughts?
I just really like the character construction, the way in which we get things like you mentioned, the Tresilian Nimble relationship being different in ways that make us suddenly become a lot more interested. And similarly, the relationship with the uncles versus the relationship with the sycophants is again clearly delineated in ways that make us want to know what happens next in just 3 scenes. So I thought that's really nice.
Liz, any final thoughts?
I like the element of buffoonery in a way, because when the King and Queen Anne has gone off, so Bagot and Greene are left, and they do this sort of na 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 na, I keep the seal and I'm the Chancellor, so it's great. No, I think it's got a lot of comedic possibilities.
Yes, I hadn't quite thought of quite as playground as that. I quite like that. That's that fits them very well. It has to be said, doesn't it? Alan, any final thoughts?
It's even better than I remember it. Oh, sorry, Alan.
Yes,
Helen.
Close. Go Alan first, then Helen.
Fine. No, I mean, it's certainly interesting. The characters seem to be well formed. As I say, the whole set up with Greene, Bagot and Tresilian does remind me incredibly of what we saw in Famous Victories. And I can't remember which predates which.
Famous Victories is definitely first. It's about 5 years.
Right. But a much later resonance I get with the Tresilian bit is with the Lord Chancellor in Iolanthe. And I, my lords, embody the law.
Yes, the corruption is a constant, isn't it?
Well,
That's
quite, yes.
Not depressing at all. Helen, any final
Yes,
thoughts?
all I was going to say was that it's even better than I remember.
Excellent. That's what I like to hear. Tamara, have I gone to you in this round?
No, not yet. What can I say? I mean, I said the generational thing. The I can see this being done with hipsters and boomers. I think my favorite character at the moment is Nimble. So I want to see more of him.
Yeah,
yes.
He's the nearest we've got to a common man figure, isn't he?
Well, yes and no. I mean, that's the thing is that you've got the aspiration. You know, they're both of the same, in theory, the same setup as Tresilian.
I think it's because he's vaguely, not vaguely, but he's closest to a kind of Deadpool character to the character who kind of brings the audience back in and goes, so you know how he stole my lunch? Yeah.
Yes, actually, influenced by his...
Sorry, yes, Liz?
Sorry, I was going to say, I think we're also influenced by his name. That name makes you think that he's the servant character. In a way. I don't know why, you know, like... Yeah.
Also that he's not necessarily nimble fingers, you know, what's he up to?
Yeah.
What's he up to?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So I think we've set this one up very nicely, or the playwrights set this up very nicely. We've got another 3.5 acts to go. Slight spoilers for everyone. We don't actually technically know how the play ends because the break in the manuscript at the end. It's not that much. It's only probably a couple of pages. It's wrap up material, but technically, you could argue that we don't know what happens to almost any of them. So just to ruin your fun, we know exactly what happens to pretty much everyone, but just within the context, I just want to throw that out.
I think it just lost its last page. That's
I don't think it's much.
No, I think it's just that it was together and the last page just disappeared.
Yeah. So that's one for your thinking caps later on. But that's it for Act 1. We'll be going into Act 2 and a little beyond tomorrow. And I'd just like to thank all my fabulous readers for joining us on this journey to a non-psychedelic Woodstock. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.